So we're about to get started. We'll be waiting just about one more minute. Just waiting. Okay, I think we're ready to start. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We hope everyone is well and is staying healthy. I'm Maria Lourdes Gallo, Vice President of the America Society and Council of the Americas office in Miami. It's a great honor to welcome so many of you to our first Council of the Americas Symposium and Bravo Business Awards virtual panel. In response to the many challenges the world has gone through in recent months, we couldn't think of a better time to transform our yearly symposium to provide exclusive access and top-level content at a time when leadership, collaboration across borders, and innovative thinking are more necessary than ever. For that reason, we have transformed our one-day symposium and Bravo Business Awards, which would usually take place in October in Miami, into a year-long series of more than 14 virtual programs. We look forward to having you join us throughout the year. Today, we have gathered 4 amazing experts and heads of top multinationals and multilatinas representing various industries who will discuss the multiple shifts in consumer behavior in recent months and the ways these changes will influence transformation in the business landscape in Latin America. We can safely say that technology has been playing a key role in the way we've responded to the crisis by satisfying new consumer needs. But how will the upcoming year post-pandemic look like for companies as they aim to satisfy the behaviors that have arrived to stay? And how can companies leverage this to contribute to a more resilient Latin America? We are thrilled. Our longtime friend and amazing journalist, one of my favorites, Gabriela Frias, from CNN en Español, is joining us to moderate this important panel discussion. Thank you, Gabriela. We know you are busier than ever, so thank you so much for being here. Our audience will have the opportunity to ask questions to our panelists towards the end of the program. To do so, you can send a private message to ASCOA Miami. You will see it at the top of the chat via the WebEx chat, and we will ensure that your questions get to our moderator. Collaboration is key, so we encourage all of you to take advantage of having access to these top business leaders and ask questions. Last year, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of our Symposium and Bravo Business Awards. And from the bottom of our hearts, we really want to thank our sponsors and partners who have supported us for so many years, and especially during such challenging times. Bank of America, the AES Corporation, Mastercard, SAP, Softec, and Chubb Latin America, our partners at the Inter-American Development Bank, and our media partners, America's Quarterly, CNN en Español, and the Financial Times. Before giving the floor to Gabriela, we ask that you keep your microphones on mute during the panel to avoid interference. With that, I welcome, as I said, one of my favorites, Gabriela. The floor is yours.
Thank you so very much, Maria Lourdes. Good afternoon to everybody. I am also grateful to be part of this discussion in these great times, challenging times where our mindsets need to evolve and we need to learn from each other what's happening and learn to see each other in terms of our values, our needs, and what's evolving in this pandemic. Again, my name is Gabriela Frias. I'm a business journalist. I've been with CNN for over 20 years. I started my journalism path in Mexico City. And this is not the first time that I am with you here at the Council of the Americas. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with top level executives on how the consumer is evolving. Is there a new consumer? Is this the same consumer, but you're adding new consumers? What are the needs, the beliefs? What's important to them? For this conversation, I am grateful to have as part of my panel, Carlos Mario Giraldo, CEO of Grupo Éxito. Carlos Mario, welcome. Also, Erika Herrero, CEO of Belco, and we're going to talk about beauty. Thank you, Erika. Hello. Claudio Muruzabal, Chairman, Latin America and the Caribbean from SAP. Claudio, it's good to see you again. You've been in a panel with me before. And Walter Pimienta, Vice President of Products and Innovation from Mastercard. So welcome to you all. Again, we will open this session for Q&A later. So make sure that you write your questions so that we can receive them. I'm going to ask you a general question, and that is, if you can point to probably 3 of the main changes that you've seen from the consumer with this pandemic. In the US, we started in January 21st when we detected our first case, but it was not until probably the 20th of March when the national emergency was declared, and then we had to go home and everything changed. So let me start with Erika, ladies first.
Thank you, Gabriela, and thank you also to the Council of the Americas for inviting me to this panel. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, to your question, Gabriela, on what are we seeing different, really what we're seeing is that the trends that we were expecting to see 5 years from now have been accelerated, and we're starting to see them in weeks and months. And let me start maybe by the consumer. One thing that we're seeing very different is the relevance of the different categories within beauty. And now personal care and body care are becoming more relevant for the consumer because with the concern of a consumer on hygiene and being more and having a more intense hygiene routines, it's giving more relevance to personal care. But then comes body care, because as you increase your hygiene routine, then you need more moisturizing. So then body care starts to become more relevant along with personal care. And what we're seeing is that these 2 categories, in April and May, when we were in the middle of the lockdowns, the market contracted significantly less than the rest categories in beauty. They contracted in the countries that we compete about 18%. And when you look at fragrances and makeup, they contracted like 70%. So it's a dramatic difference between categories. Then facial skincare was already in a growing path before the pandemic. It continued this accelerated path because consumers are seeing more and more having a healthy skin as a first step of beauty, even within the pandemic, even more within the pandemic. And then you see makeup and fragrances being the least relevant because people need to, being at home, you need to use makeup less because you don't need to be well prepared every minute of your day. Now what is happening as the lockdowns are started to be lifted is that with people wearing the mask, the eyes are becoming significantly more relevant because it's kind of the best expression of your face becomes the eyes because it's the only part that is outside of a mask. So we're starting to see some pickup in products around the eyes. And then fragrances, really, it's still not picking up because fragrance is a very social category. And when you're in social distance, there are less moments where you would use a fragrance. There's some niche picking up, like, those fragrances that make you feel better, like mood swings. But apart from those little niche, the category is one of the most affected. The other thing that we're seeing different in the consumer is really the importance of right pricing and value because of all the level of unemployment and people being more financial conscious. Of course, they're being more mindful on how they invest their money. So they're really looking for products that they're sure are going to work. It's a product that is going to deliver on the benefits. So I'm not going to risk the little money that I have. We're also seeing wellness becoming like an underlying theme within beauty. People are more and more concerned on well-being and self-care. That was true before the pandemic, and it's been accelerated dramatically as we went through the lockdowns and now people starting to go out. The other point that is also increasing relevance is all the sustainability, clean beauty. That's also becoming more relevant these days. And last but not least, we're seeing all of us digital. The consumer journey, it's becoming dramatically more digital. We're seeing 20, 30 points higher penetration in all of the social networks. People looking for videos, live streaming, how-to, tutorials, spa at home, doing my hair care at home. So there are many things that the consumer is looking for digital. So I would say those are the main at the consumer side. I'll talk later a bit more on the consultant and the business model, but I think that's that's on the consumer. So I let the rest of the panelists also share their perspective.
Eric, I was telling you earlier that Unilever just released their quarterly report, and they were saying that the deodorant is out and ice cream is in. But I'm also wondering if you're acquiring new customers because this is the type of product that they're looking for. Because we know that comfort, being at home and feeling comfortable is part of what we need right now.
There are some categories that consumers used to do outside of their homes. And I don't know, nail care, some of the hair care products that they're now starting to do at home. So there's some increase in some categories that they're starting to do at home that before they would do outside of their homes.
Thank you so much. Carlos, Mario, let's talk about Grupo Éxito and what you've seen. Of course, I'm assuming a lot of people wanted to buy online. How did you address that challenge, technological challenge? Among other things that you've noticed, those three main points that you'd like to highlight?
Yes, I would start, Gabriela, by highlighting that there are some psychological and value-driven trends which are very important. The first one is that for consumers today, it is very important to feel safe, to feel that their health is being preserved, to feel that our companies are taking care of social distancing, and that we are being like in the stores, like an extension of their home. They want to feel in our stores as if they were at home. The word that is key today, more than price, because price is always important, value is always important, it is confidence, it is reliability. You have to be reliable and you have to be consistent in that. And it's not only your customer, but you have to start with your employees and you have to show them that your employees are well treated and are well preserved. The second thing is that the consumer today is looking much more to sustainable behavior. And what we are starting to see is that they want to see that employees are fairly treated, that their salaries are correct, that the heroic behavior they're having is being compensated in the right way, that there's environmental conscience, even though we have a lot of, I would say, short-term plastic use, but that, for example, deforestation is today an issue as it had never been before, and that there are great governance standards. So this would be like the first part. The second one, it's incredible, it is nationalism. There's a lot of nationalism everywhere, in France, in Germany, in the US, in Mexico, in Colombia. So people are looking for, in our case, for the Colombian products in Colombia, Uruguayan products in Uruguay, Argentinian products in Argentina. In fact, we are marking our textiles that are produced in Colombia with the Colombian flag, and it's impressive to see, for example, that they ask for an appliance and they ask where it was made or where it came from. And they are privileging the local economy because they are sure that it is going to have a very important impact in employment. For example, in our case, we took the decision to pay in 1 week advance to all our middle and small size suppliers, above 1,000 suppliers. And that had a huge impact, not only in the suppliers, but also in the consumers. And finally, of course, it's online behavior. It's what we call the non-line. It's a consumer who's going to buy in every way, different way. It is many people, for example, in our apps, we had 1 million discharges and now it's 3 million discharges, and people highly using them, and people that had never used an app to buy or to discharge or to communicate are doing it permanently. The click and collect services are very important because people want to drive in the store and not have any contact and go out with their purchasing without having to pay for delivery. And food delivery is something amazing. Food delivery has been very strong in places like the UK, for example, or France, but very low in places in Latin America. And here, for example, our online food sales came from 3%, and we were the leaders in that in our countries, to 11% today. They multiplied by 3 times. And it's impressive how people are looking for this service, not only for safety and health, but also for convenience. So I would begin by signaling this and end by saying there's a phenomenon everywhere in the world, which is called a one-stop shop. And it is the consumer that used to visit 5 stores in a week, different stores, is now choosing 1 or maximum 2. So they want to be in a place where they feel safe. Second, where they have also an online complementary service. And third, where they have a wide assortment when they can make a visit and make a visit alone, because there are many restrictions for family visits. So we are having much less frequency, less transactions, but high ticket transaction. Whoever comes to a store or comes online is serious about doing a very effective purchase.
I'm going to ask you about how you were able to cope with the high demand of people, or did you experience a crash on your sites in the beginning and now you're able to cope with all this demand? Can you give me a very brief comment so I can talk to Walter about money and cash and coins, as I was telling you, Walter. But before, let me just finish this thought with Carlos Mario. Were you able to cope in technology-wise or not?
Fortunately, we had prepared before, not knowing that this was coming. We knew it was an ongoing trend and it was a comparative advantage against the market. But even though we were prepared, we had a huge problem in the first weeks of the pandemic, because there was a lot of I would say, purchase of people that were in panic. And so, for example, we had to reduce the number of units that any customer could buy to only 3, in order to give the message that there was enough food for everybody. We had to change completely our promotions. Our promotions are very, very strong, and they start in 1 or 2 days where you have, it's like a Black Friday in the US, but here in Latam. So for the first time, we took a decision that had never been taken in 50 years, and it is to cancel our physical promotion and to go to a mix of relational marketing, that is person-to-person messages, so that using technology and using one-to-one communication database, so that people would go in different moments or they will buy online at any moment, and combining it with a promo online, which took us not to the same sales, because it's very difficult to match that in the first year, but at least to 90% of the sales. So that was amazing, because it was a complete change in the company. And I would say that the discussion internally to be able to cancel the promotion was very difficult. It was a tough decision, but it was a decision taken because our top priority was to take care of the health of our customers and of our employees. So there have been completely different changes in what we have done. I would give you, for example, that we in this last quarter, we had 2.6 million deliveries. That's up 5 times from what we had in the last second quarter of last year.
Impressive. Thank you so much, Carlos Mario. Walter Pimienta, Mastercard. What are those 3 main changes you've seen that you want to highlight?
Awesome. So first of all, let me start by saying that everything that I'm going to share connects perfectly well with the story that we heard from Carlos and from Erica, obviously, because at the end of the day, the consumer is primarily the same. And what we are seeing in Mastercard, so to summarize it, I would say that the first thing that we started to notice is that e-commerce, digital transactions overall, they are growing on a pace that we could never imagine 6 months ago. I think that Erica used a word that was acceleration, and that word is perfect because the acceleration that we have seen in e-commerce is, again, it's something that is a little bit astonishing to us. We are seeing e-commerce growing in certain categories, to Carlos' point, such as food delivery, such as entertainment, such as online education, for example, 3 digits, which is something that we have never seen before. Overall, in our region, we are seeing e-commerce grow over 35% year over year, which is far ahead of any other region in the world. And that's also a very interesting phenomenon. And I think that also on the e-commerce, the other thing that we have seen that is very much impressive is that we have a whole new wave of consumers that are transacting online for the first time. E-commerce has been traditionally I would say a segment or a piece of the business that is primarily attended by credit cards. And what we're seeing now is that we have a whole new wave of debit and prepaid consumers shopping online, obviously as a consequence of the lockdowns, as a consequence of the challenges that they're facing to go out and to transact. So we are seeing this sheer amount of newcomers to the e-commerce world, which is for us, again, it's an acceleration of 3 or 4 years that happened in 6 months. Aside from the e-commerce and from that specific phenomenon, which is the debit card holders becoming very much prevalent in that kind of transaction, the other thing that we have seen, and that is actually fascinating, look, we are probably a month behind Europe and a month behind, maybe a little bit more than a month behind Asia when it comes to the curve of the pandemic. And we had many learnings, obviously, being a global company and having friends and business partners that are in those regions. We had many learnings of what was happening there. And one of the things that was astonishing was the growth of contactless transactions. So contactless means I go to a store, I have a contactless cards, I tap and I go. I have zero interaction, physical interaction, if you will, either with the cashier or with the terminal, the POS. And we learned that from the other regions. We saw that in our numbers internally, in our data. And we decided to run a study in LAC above, or I would say before we felt the strong effects of the pandemic. And that study was very interesting. So what we did was we researched the 5 markets in this region where contactless is most advanced as a technology, most prevalent, most known. And we asked, so what's going on? Why contactless? And the answers were pretty much in line with everything that we heard so far. So the answers were, look, first of all, cash is dirty. There is a dirtiness component in cash. And if you think about it from a very basic perspective, cash is a piece of paper that is being exchanged through many hands, and that becomes a vector for contagion. And people are afraid of cash, and I call it the cash aversion effect. And as a consequence, the natural answer was, okay, so I use my card. But if you think about your traditional plastic card, again, you still have to go and insert it in the terminal, swipe it. Eventually, you have to deliver it to someone. And there's contact. And therefore, contactless becomes very powerful, very powerful. The growth that we have seen in contactless in this region and in every other region is probably even more impressive than the growth that we have seen in card not present, in e-commerce. And I would say that those are the most impressive trends that we have seen in LXD. Super, super strong, present in every single market. And I think that those are trends that are here to stay. I do not expect, and we do not expect in Mastercard, and I think that none of us in this panel expect the consumers that are now shopping online to go back and to move away from consuming digital goods. Think about entertainment. People are actually, my father, I always make this joke, my father now is a Netflix consumer. To me, this is astonishing. This is the icing in the cake. And he likes it. And I think that this is the kind of consumer that is not new, if you will, to this space. And I truly believe that they're here to stay. So those are very strong trends that we have been seeing lately.
Now that a lot of people are tired of being home, I'm wondering how much this is here to stay. Some of what you've heard, some of what I've heard right now. But it's funny that you mentioned that, Walter, because whenever we talked with representatives from Mastercard, we've always talked about the reticence from the consumer because of privacy concerns, security concerns, and probably COVID did what the mindset of many millions of people has not been able to change, which is, it's okay to use a card rather than cash. But cash is still king, right? I mean, in
Yes.
Latin America and in the world.
Absolutely. Probably one of the questions that I've answered the most in my life at Mastercard is who is your competitor? And my competitor is cash. Period. I think it's cash. Cash is something that is obviously driven by many different initiatives. It's let's say that to win share against cash, we obviously need to work with governments. We need to work with SME associations because we need to drive financial inclusion. So it's a very large agenda that is happening on a very fast pace all over the world. And I do believe that COVID or the pandemic is going to be a catalyst for that change. So you are absolutely right. Cash is king, but we are taking the right measures so that we can deliver the right assets for the consumers to have safer and more convenient ways of paying.
Of course, cash aversion, although cash is king, but there's cash aversion, no doubt about it. Thank you so much, Dr.
Absolutely.
Claudio Muruzabal, again, it's so good to talk to you. Now we've heard of this, and my question to you, what are the three main highlights that you want to share with us?
Sure, Gabriela. And clearly to talk about the impact in business or in technology, you have to put in perspective what is going through. And we're living a change that will impact the way we will live our lives in the future. And the way we socialize, work will never be the same. And in some way or other, we're living a phenomenon that will define the course of the generation. So that's the magnitude of the change. And obviously that translates to business. And obviously, I'm talking about business is talking about technology. And some of us in this industry have talked too much about the famous digital transformation. I never liked the concept because it's more important to talk about what are the real business processes that happen in a business and how do you use technology to improve them. And to put that in perspective in terms of what COVID has brought to us, we see three big trends that will change the way businesses are run in the future. The first one has to do with the objective of this panel, which is customer behavior. Customers have become more demanding, as we heard from Erica, we heard from Carlos Mario. They require immediate response. They require an accurate response, which is a big change. Our ability to tolerate a commerce engine that doesn't work is gone. We do not tolerate not to know when our product will be delivered to our home, not what week, what day, and at what time. And if we are entering the e-commerce site and there is a lot of workload, we want to know how long it will take for us to be processed. And all these things 5 months ago, well, we're really not there. We want to be able to serve ourselves. We want a self-service opportunity, which is typical of the internet and e-commerce, but we want also to be fully served. So you want everything to work fine. You want a product to arrive in your home, which is exactly what you ordered. No excuses, no changes. It has to be in the right packaging, and the packaging has to be perfect, not damaged. So in the end, you're looking for an experience. You're just not trying to get a product or a service. Now, that for business means a lot of changes, and we have very experienced practitioners in the panel that have talked about what happens in front of the customer. But the second topic is what happens behind. How do we create a supply chain that goes all the way from manufacturing the product till it gets in the hands of the consumer that is really in tune with this requirement that the consumer has now? And if you talk to manufacturers, they will tell you, yes, I understand. Now I need a China +1 source because we cannot rely only in China. And I say, yeah, that's just the beginning of this conversation. The conversation is much more important. It has to do with how do you use technology to have a dynamic supply chain? Because what the consumer needs today is not what they would need in the future. And if toilet paper was one of the things that we were all concerned about in the first week of April, it's not the same thing that we're concerned today. And the supply chain has to be flexible, has to be fast, has to be accurate to respond to the requirements of that end consumer. And last but not least is our employees. There are many studies, and we at SAP did our own, and I personally did my own with my LinkedIn followers, of how work will be different going forward. And obviously people now understand that it would be flexible work. Some people would never go back to the office. We just heard yesterday of a major technology company saying that they will not accept employees until July of next year. The reality is that the tools that will be required to work will be different. And I'm not talking about the great products like WebEx that we're using today, or Zoom or Teams. I'm talking about how flexible the tools that we use from home will need to be, and how seamless they will need to be when we get to the office, and an office that would convert itself into an administrative hub, because the offices would not look the same in the future either. So all these things together require us as business leaders to change very quickly, in a very dramatic way. And those of us that are still dealing with the complexity of running a business in the midst of COVID will not be prepared to run a successful business in the post-COVID world. That's the way we see it.
Thank you, Claudio. Now that you're talking about a dynamic supply chain, I would very much like to know, what are you seeing in Latin America as the key challenge to make this a reality? Of course, this is evolving every day, always. It's the mindset, but there are many other challenges. What does it take? What are you seeing as the main challenge, I would say?
The concerns about supply chain and having the products at the right time in the right place is one that is with any business in any part of the world and in any industry. Now, I have to say that I'm very bullish about Latin America because I've seen how our multilatinas have been able to not only compete effectively in the world, but sometimes challenge markets, conquer markets that were very challenging. So I truly believe that our multilatinas will emerge of this, call it crisis, with a much stronger standing that they entered. But they have to take actions today, because today is the moment to define the post-COVID world. If we don't do it today, we'll be late.
Let me just go to the next round of questioning, but I stay with you. Give us, if you can, in this call to action, 3 main things that whomever is listening to our panel this afternoon can do after listening to you.
I would get back to the same 3 things.
Okay.
Just understand that your consumer has changed, and that change is not the circumstance of a lockdown. It's a change, it's a shift that will stay forever. And if you don't have the tools to serve that consumer seamlessly across all your channels, but particularly across your digital channel, you will have a hard time catching up. Second, if you don't have a manufacturing to consumer value chain that is well aligned and is dynamic and can be retrofitted in terms of days, maybe hours, it is time to do something. And last but not least, don't forget your employees. Your employees will work in a different way, and they will define the success of your business.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Carlos Mario, because you started talking about the employees, and now that we heard Claudio, let's just dive in a little bit more into the employee and how to keep the culture of the company. In your case, we can see the employees, we can see the team working. Not every company, not every employee is able to see their teammates. So what is working for you?
For us, it has been very important to tell all the employees that we are all committed, because we have 40,000 employees, but of them, there are 33,000 who work at the stores, and the rest do not work at the stores, so that they see that we are all committed and that it's not only them taking the everyday risk. The second thing is caring about their families and taking the right decisions. For example, that any employee that has any vulnerability is not going to be exposed, For example, even though there's no data that creates a risk for pregnant women in COVID, immediately we all 500 pregnant women went home and they stayed there. And it creates a lot of problems, but we have to do that. And the third thing, which is amazing, is the power of communication. During all this pandemic, we have been doing a live communication with all the employees of the company that connect, and those that are working will connect later and get the presentation, where we have had more than 20,000 employees connected at the same time, making questions, getting questions answered at the same time, tough questions about their security. And this virtuality has been great for communicating with our employees and for giving the right messages. I would add something, and it is that for our employees, it has been very important to see that it's a company driven by values, that we are taking the right decisions in solidarity, that we created, for example, a food package that we made available to everyone in Colombia with no margin for the company for $4, 12 products, so that people could donate to other people. And we have had more than 600,000 of these packages donated by our customers to the different people, and that we are committed with our purpose of protecting the infants in Colombia, and that we are going through the foundation of Éxito to more than 120,000 children to their homes with the packages that they need in order not to fall into malnutrition, which is one of the main purposes of the company.
Carlos, we want to see your face.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Before I go, before I leave you, how do you connect this with the customer experience, the training that you need to do with your employees? Of course, we talk about the health issues, the wearing the mask, the social distancing, but beyond that, in order to keep and enrich that customer experience, has it required more training, different training?
It has required a different training because we have been accustomed to customer experience inside the store, in the cashiers, in the store, and the service after you get out of the store. But we were not used to so much demand of customer experience online. And for example, we had in Colombia one day, which was a day that the government created with no VAT tax. It was a chaos, a complete chaos. And for example, in our case, even though our platform worked very well, we had to close the online service at 2 p.m. because it was not possible to comply with the government requirement to be able to deliver within the 2 next weeks. But then to be able to serve our customers online and to serve them in the right time, in the right way, with the right product, with the marketplace suppliers has been a huge challenge, and we have had to make a complete trainment of our people to be able to deliver that. As my colleagues were saying, as I heard from Claudio and from Walter, it's a different demand. People want everything now, perfect, and without any error.
Immediate, accurate, and easier. Yes, Carlos Mario, thank you. Erika, let me talk about beauty. And have you had the need to train your employees to give that customer experience, different customer experience? What have you done?
Maybe I share a bit on how our business model used to work and what are we seeing differently, because it's the way it used to work is our beauty consultants would have a paper catalog. They'll visit their customers, leave the paper catalog, have like a little chat, and then the customer would say, come back in 2 or 3 days. Once I've seen the paper catalog, she'll go back, pick up the catalog, take it to a different customer. order the products to us, then she will receive the products, she will go to every customer and deliver a product and collect the money. So it was a business very in person that required a lot of social interaction. So the moments we get to lockdowns, it was like the beauty consultant couldn't sell really because she couldn't go out of her house, visit the customer. Even the moment that she could, because of the lockdowns were lifted, no one wanted to touch the catalog because it's as Walter was saying with the money, it's the same thing with the paper catalog. I mean, you pass it home by home. So it was great to see how the kind of the situation, a bit of a force our beauty consultants to adopt much faster all the digital tools that we had. We have had a digital catalog for more than 2 years, a fantastic digital catalog that she can send to her customers through WhatsApp, email, Facebook, and the customers can buy directly from the e-catalog to her, and she doesn't have to leave her house. And the adoption was a bit of a slow, and some would adopt it faster than others, but still like 3 points increased penetration every 3 weeks. We got like 20 points increased penetration in the lockdown because of the situation, just forced them to find different ways to sell to their customers. And I'm sure they're not going to go back because the moment they learn that it's much easier to just send the catalog to her customer, she gets the order without having to go out, visit, and spend the time and money in transportation. So it changed the business, for the long term. Then we also, the situation also got us in the middle of we were already foreseeing the e-commerce kind of acceleration, and we were creating a tool which we call Mi Tienda Online, which is the personal store of every consultant. So every beauty consultant can have their own like e-commerce store that she can send to the consumers. And that's even better than the catalog because the consumer can buy to her, but she doesn't have to ship the product or deliver the product. And the consumer pays directly to us. When we were working with that tool before the pandemic, one of the big questions was how we're going to drive the behavior change because she's so used to the way she sells that now saying you just need to send your store and that's it. You don't have to deliver the catalog, the product, collect the money. It's going to be too different for her. The great news is that we already have like 30% of our consultants that have created their online store in less than 2 months because they're rapidly adopting So now comes your question on training. Okay, now they have the tools, how we train them to adopt them very fast and to kind of evolve their role as a consultant to more one of call it beauty influencer or beauty digital seller. So we've been taking advantage of our kind of people were at homes. We created a full training platform for the full sales, starting from the regional managers, the zone managers, and then all the way to the consultant on how to adopt the tools, how can she be a digital seller, how can she advise her consumers online, how can she create live streaming, videos, and it's amazing to see how fast they're adopting. I mean, nothing that any similar to what we've seen before. I mean, they've been forced to do it. So now the challenge, we have the tools. Now the challenge is to do them so easy to use and with such a user experience for the consumer that the adoption almost happens very easily, and they learn on how to do a different role as consultants.
In the task of finding new clients, what about samples? What about the personalization that would be involved in going face to face? Of course, there's personalization through digital and through Zoom, and many. We have a number of examples, but in your case, how are you dealing with acquiring new customers and probably sending the samples and also making it the Bell Corp experience?
Yeah. Maybe two things there. One is on acquiring new customers, going back to the tools that were given to the beauty consultant. Before, she used to sell the products only to the people, in most of the cases, to the people that she can go walking. I mean, people that were close by, because she had to do all these physical effort to the catalog and deliver, Now, because she has this online store, she can sell to anyone in the country because we are going to do the delivery and we're going to do the collection of the money. So she has a tool that allows her to increase the number of customers. That's from the beauty consultant side. Then comes the question you're asking on sampling. We still have a big challenge to solve on fragrances, because for makeup and skincare, there are fantastic virtual try-on tools that the consumers are adopting more and more, that you can try your looks with augmented reality. You can do a skin test. You can try so for skincare, makeup, and most of the personal care things, you can do virtual try-ons. The big challenge is a fragrance, because fragrance at the end is a scent. And then how you recreate that with videos, with sensations that lead you to the kind of the scent of the fragrances. That's a challenge we still haven't solved. We're going to solve it, and we're going to find a solution, but it's going to require a lot of testing different alternatives to see which one works best.
Thank you, Erika. Let me go back to Walter Pimienta and talk about Mastercard. And now that you mentioned what has evolved, Walter, I would like to probably move us into the direction of what is here to stay, like what will make the winners and the losers, what's the factor, or even what should we be starting to think about when we were talking about the new normal?
That's a great question. So let me talk a little bit about technology, because I think it's fairly important, because technology will help us to help our customers and business partners to cope with the huge expectation that the digital consumer has. And contactless is a good example. So let me share a little bit on that. We have been working with the industry in Latin America, our banking issuers, our partners, our acquiring partners, to build the infrastructure for contactless payments. And you can imagine that this is something that we have been working for several years already. The growth of contactless is, again, COVID has been a catalyst for that growth, but obviously that it served the wave of the enablement that we have been doing in the past years. That being said, that enablement takes time and it's costly. So one of the questions that we have been receiving frequently today is, what can we do to leapfrog or to accelerate that transition to enable contactless payments across huge merchant chains, to deliver contactless payments in the hands of the consumers, and so on and so forth. So on the consumer side, we have been working with every single issuer in the region so that we can have more cards issued. That's very important. Just to give you a little bit of a ballpark, the growth in issuance between January 2018 and July 2020 has been of 24 times. So it's a very impressive growth in such a short period of time. The growth in issuance this year is also very remarkable. Transactions are growing by the day. But again, issuing is one piece of the equation, and we have been working on that with our banking partners. When we think about acceptance, the discussion is a little bit more complex, because the terminal itself is expensive. And the question that we posed ourselves probably 1 year or so ago was, how can we leverage the smartphones that we have out there? Smartphones are called smart for a reason. There's a lot of technology embedded on that. So the question is, how can we leverage smartphones not only to enable consumers to pay with smartphones, because that has been happening for a while now. All of us know Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and so on and so forth, the famous wallets. But how can we also leverage that same or similar technology to enable merchants that have a smartphone in this region to receive contactless payments through their smartphone? And we have been working extensively on that. And we recently came up with a product called Tap on Phone, which is basically addressing precisely that very topic, which is, again, there's a lot of technology embedded in those smartphones, and we can work with the acquirers in this region so that the merchants can have the contactless capability of receiving payments through their own devices. Fabulous story. I think it's very, very impactful for the industry, and it's going to grow astonishingly in the next few months. So that is one example. Aside from that, we have been working also very closely with the industry on the e-commerce side of the world. Look, I think that at the end of the day, as probably all of us mentioned, the expectation of the digital consumer is very different. When I go to a supermarket, it's fine for me to be 5 minutes in the line, because I am expecting to be 5 minutes in the line and then to go out, right? When I'm shopping online, I want it now. Payment is I mean, I've never woken up in my life in a single day, and I thought I want to do a payment today. Look, payment has to be embedded. It has to be natural. It's a seamless part of my engagement with the shopping experience, and we have been working a lot with our partners so that they can deliver to our consumers the best experience and attend their expectations in digital. So I think that those are two very important things that are evolving. Technology is evolving a lot to support that demand. It's not evolving as a consequence of COVID. It's also evolving as a consequence of COVID, but it has been evolving in the past years. And again, this is a big catalyst that came to accelerate that. And I fully agree with Claudio. I'm not a big fan of the digital transformation terminology, but it absolutely came to change the way consumers interact with businesses.
The tap on phone sounds pretty interesting and almost natural, easy to guess that it would accelerate a lot in the coming months.
Yes.
Does it take the user to change mindset? Do you need also to change mindset from on the side of the consumer, since we are so used to having our phone? It seems that that's a battle that you've already won in a way.
Yes, I think it's I would say that education, whenever you have a habit that has been there for so long, education is very important. And whenever we think about tap on phone, it goes beyond the technology, right? It's not really deploying an SDK to a merchant smartphone so that they can receive payments. It's actually explaining why to receive payments in such a way, why, again, being included in the formal economy has advantages for them as usually micro and small merchants. So there is a whole educational package that comes along with the technology. And this is something that we have been working, again, extensively in every market in the region. I think that there is still education that needs to be done, and it's going to be the case in our region because financial inclusion, as I said, is something that is happening as we speak, and therefore education is required. But I think that that huge, probably not concern, but that question mark that people had, not only when it comes to contactless payments, but when it comes to electronic payments overall, in several markets, I think that that's already behind us. So it's a matter of keep working on that education front, making sure that people understand the benefits of financial inclusion overall. But
we stopped listening to what you were saying. I believe I'm not the only one, right? You stopped hearing what he was saying, Walter. But anyway, let me move to Claudio, just because we're talking about what's the next trend or what should we be thinking about in the future. So what would you say will be those transformative outcomes of this current disruption, would you say?
Yeah, thank you, Gabriela. And, I kept thinking about your question about how do you change the way that consumers interact and get along doing things. And I don't think it's that difficult to change the consumer mindset when you have the right compelling. No? Imagine the compelling we had in the second or third week of March to change the way we live. And it's not that it's so difficult to change the mindset. What is difficult is to create the right reason to change the mindset. And we'll have to do a lot of that going forward because the competition for the right service is going to be huge. No, and we live in Miami. No, and if you want to procure food from a supermarket in a service of home delivery, I don't know what's your experience, but my experience is not good. No, and hopefully Carlos Mario has a much better experience in Colombia. But if there was one company that really got it right, it would mean that we wouldn't be going to the supermarket anymore. And as I think Carlos Mario was saying, instead of visiting 5 stores, we would visit 1 or maybe none. But it's really creating that change. And the good news is that now you have the technology to do it, which is accessible. It's not that you need to wait for 2-3 years to get it done. And you can do improvements in short shifts. And that's what we need as technology providers to be able to help businesses do.
Thank you. Well, now that you talk about Grupo Éxito, then Carlos Mario, before I move into the questions, the Q&A, probably what do you see would be the new normal in the future? Less store, more warehouse. What are you thinking about the physical store in terms of the evolution in the post-COVID world?
Yes. First of all, I think that there are new things that are here to change, to stay. And in the online world, to get the front and the back well, you have to work on picking, packing, and delivery. 3 very important things. But the stores continue to be important. Let me tell you that they continue to be important, but they will have to work differently. They will have to deliver experience, innovation in product, very well adapted and managed social distancing, protection, and security. And let me give you the example. We've done in the last 3 years a great innovation in our hypermarkets through the Éxito Wow formats and through the Carulla Fresh Markets. And today, even during the pandemic, each one of them is growing 12 or 13 points above the rest of the points. So this is important for customers. And the other thing that we have to think is that we are going to have less visits into the stores, but more relevant visits into the stores. So if we can use data, if we can do cross-merchandising, if we can do relational marketing, it's going to be very important for our customers. I think there are 2 things which remain today very important. One is innovation, innovation, innovation. It is more relevant than ever, and people are not going to stay buying only toilet paper. They are going to want more sophisticated products. Let me tell you, for example, that today, the fryer, the automatic fryer, oilless fryer is the main appliance being sold. The all type of smart appliances are being captured by the customer. And the second thing, which I think is going to be very important in the cross between on and off, is going to be data. And in data, I'm speaking about relational marketing. I'm speaking about digital communication to our customers. I'm speaking about monetization of our traffic. We have 8 million offline customers. And in the last promo online, we had 10 million visits into our online. And then we have the customer coalition in alliance with Banco de Colombia with 12 million customers. So the good management of data is going to be basic. And here there are 2 things we are going to have to deal with. And it's going to be key for all the technology suppliers, for all the software suppliers, and for all us that are selling things to our customers and communicating. And it is going to be assuring privacy, assuring safety to our customers with their data, and assuring a very well managed AVEA's data with our customers. Gabriela, I think you're in mute.
Hi.
You're on mute. We're going to do the bumper sticker.
Too many moderations already. No, thank you so much, Carlos Mario. I want to open the session to Q&A. So let me just start. I do have a first question for Claudio. What are some examples of working tools that employees will need in the new normal besides better technology?
That's a very interesting question. Definitely, let's start with everything that has to do with HR, with human resources. You need to have a central location where the employee is capable of resolving anything that has to do with employment, all the way from benefits, from payroll, securing vacation time, requesting support for probably IT. Let's call it an employee central location. That should be connected with the tools that you use to run your calendar, the tools that you use to run your interactions, including potentially, the tool that you use to communicate over video. Video is going to become significantly more important going forward. If there is one thing that has changed, is video interaction. Just think of this. In the past, people work from home. But at least in the cultures that I had dealt with, the corporate cultures that I dealt with, the people who work from home would communicate through audio. Very rarely they would communicate through video. Now, video is going to be everywhere. The first thing you need to think as you retrofit your offices is that every single conference room, every single office space has to be a video conference site, because you will have employees that will be connecting over video. Then you need to provide the tools to execute, let's say it's back office transactions. It has to be seamless. It has to be easy. It cannot be that you need to know the sequence of this and that to get to be able to secure an order for a customer. It has to be simple. It has to be intuitive. And it has to be connected in one single place, which is the place where the employee would connect remotely. Now, that's on the side of the employee. Now, let's get on the side of the business. You want to be able to get a pulse of how the employee is doing in the day-to-day work, and you want to do it easily. Now, we're so used to these surveys that are sent like once a year, maybe twice a year, lots of questions. You answer it, then somebody receives it, they don't know what to do with it. Maybe you find out 3 things that you want to change. Hopefully you change one of the 3, and then you start again and you do the survey again. That has to change. Today you have tools where we can immediately know what we all think about this panel. And we can change it, and the council can change it for the next panel. We have a tool that we use internally to measure to take a pulse of how employees are working from home in the midst of the pandemic. And we made it available for no cost for any company that wants to use it in the world. Hundreds of companies have used it in Latin America. And you can get an immediate response to just 2-3 questions of how people are feeling. And you can do this pulse every other week if you want. We've done it for 25,000 employees, and we get a response that we can process immediately. So the experience of the employee as the experience of the consumer is as important as we move forward. And there are many stories about how that has changed the way the companies operate.
Thank you, Claudio. I have a second question from Virgilio Penso. Virgilio, you can ask your question directly. Hello.
Okay. Hi, Gabriela. Thank you for this. Hi, Erika. It's a question for you. Nice to see you. Long time. Erika, how can we develop a global brand in a world where consumers prefer to buy local? How can we do that?
In our case, we have 3 brands, Level, Essica, and Saison, and they are for example, Essica is a brand that it's anchored in the Latin beauty. And it's something that more and more it's relevant for our Latin American consumers. And it goes back to the point that Carlos Mario was saying on buying local. We are not seeing in beauty data local as country by country, but we are seeing the fact on the Latin beauty becoming more and more relevant. And Essica is a brand that it's working hard on that and is identified as such. So in our case, it's more Latin than country by country, I would say. Now, the other part that is in our business is that people do know that when they're buying to a consultant, they're giving an opportunity for this consultant to achieve a dream. Our consultants get into the business because they want to make some money, either to do a little things in their home or to help on the education of their kids, or because she wants to fix her house, but she has a dream and she wants, she needs the money to achieve that dream. So in our case, the power of our brands is that consumers know that when they're buying a brand, one of our 3 brands, they're helping someone achieve a dream. So in these moments when consumers are looking for more like social responsibility, sustainability, how are we helping our community? That's really the beauty of our business. That really, the moment you're buying, you're not only buying a beauty brand, but you're also helping someone achieve a dream. So that's really the power, and that's where local comes in our case, I would say.
Do you, Erica, following up a little bit more, do you plan to enhance that message? Have you made it louder, more visible, more like present for the consumers so they know that?
They already know, because normally the consultants buy to their close network, I would say. They sell to friends, neighborhoods, family. But we are going to dial up on that as we go forward, because now that they have this Mi Tienda online tool, she's going to start to sell to someone outside of her network. So we do need to elevate the message that every time you're buying an Essica, Level, or Saison brand, you're helping someone achieve a dream. So you're helping someone have their personal realization. And sometimes that dream is not financially big. It's not that I want to buy a house. Sometimes it's only a dream that I want to feel that I'm adding up to my family. I want to be respected by my friends because I was able to achieve something. I want to know that I'm able to do something by myself. So sometimes it's even an emotional dream. But you want to help someone achieve that. And we know that in the context of the pandemia, again, helping your local community and supporting your circle, it's even more important. And for us, it's the reason for being of the company. Is our company purpose. When you look at our company purpose, is we drive beauty for personal realization through our consultants.
Yeah, I've known a lot of consumers in recent interviews exactly looking for, that narrative. They want to feel good. So some companies are trying to leverage on that need of a consumer that's at home, wanting to feel good by helping someone else through their purchase. Let me go to the third question. Thank you.
Gracias, Virgilio.
Can any of the panelists provide a specific percentage of e-commerce increase from March to date? It can be in their own business sectors. Who would like to share, respond?
Yeah.
Carlos Mario. No te escuchamos. We can't hear you. Sorry. Nope.
If I can tap on that if Mario is back.
Yes, now.
Oh, here he is.
Okay, first, it's different in food and in non-food. In food, we are seeing the increase in purchasing online multiplied by 4 times. It's 3.5 times to be precise. And that's impressive because before we had been struggling during many years with home delivery, and it was something that was only peaking in the last 2 years. In non-food, it is becoming very important. In non-food, in our case, it went from 12% of total sales to 26% of total sales. So really, it's picking up very much, and I've seen it in most of the non-food retailers and also in the food retailers, not to an extent of an 11% sales of total food, but it's ranging between 4 and 8% in most of the peers in Latin America.
Thank you. Walter, you wanted to...
Yeah, sorry. Look, a couple of things that I would share. When you look, not necessarily March, but when you look at e-commerce at the end of last year, and you look at e-commerce now, overall, LAC, Latin America, we are talking about a growth of almost 50% on the representation of e-commerce within the total transactions that we see. So that is by definition, or on itself, huge. I think that if you break down the different segments of merchants, if you will, in e-commerce, it becomes even more impressive because e-commerce in LAC has been almost traditionally composed by a third of retailing, services, and T&E, travel and entertainment. And because of the lockdowns today, travel and entertainment is pretty much non-existing. Right? So it used to account for a third of our transactions 6 months ago. Today, it's around 7 to 8%. So it is really impressive to see that we are growing at that pace much faster than we were growing before the pandemic, considering that, again, what used to account for a third of our volume is today non-existent. So I think that gives a little bit of a perspective of how fast e-commerce is growing. And obviously that as soon as travel and entertainment come back, I'm sure that people will want to travel. And that means that e-commerce is going to become even more prevalent in the region.
Thank you. I believe I'm going to go extra time just because we have another question from Rocio Sandoval. Rocio, if you can hear me, you can ask your question directly.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. This is a question for Erika and for the panelists in general. I want to see if you can share your perspective on how fast do you see our digital media platforms like WhatsApp or Facebook adapting to the needs of the advertisers in terms of social selling. I ask this because sometimes I don't see them going as fast as what we need as advertisers. So I would like to know your point of view.
Well, in our case, WhatsApp is the platform most used by our consultants and our consumers. So every time we bring something to our model, if we don't kind of leverage on WhatsApp, it's difficult to get the adoption that we want. So for example, if we go to the e-catalog or the virtual catalog that I was showing before, the moment we put it WhatsApp friendly was the moment it gained traction, because the consultant, does everything through WhatsApp. Now, your question on it's a bit behind. Yeah, the moment WhatsApp Shop is available in our countries, we'll take it to the next level, because we'll be able to adapt the e-tailer from each consultant in a WhatsApp platform that will be even better for her than now she has to adopt our platform. But really today, WhatsApp, it's critical in our business, in the way we communicate with our consultants. We have another program that we call Virtual Coach, that we send the consultant training, gives kind of the latest offer. Going back to Carlos Mario's point on data, that's one of our strategies going forward, how we use all the data we're getting from the consumer to help the consultant develop her business and bring personalized information to her consumers. And all that we're doing through WhatsApp. And every time we send a training via WhatsApp or we send it by email, the opening rate is 30 times bigger in WhatsApp than it is in an email. So WhatsApp is an important part of our social business model today, but there's significantly more that we can do as WhatsApp Shop becomes available in our countries.
Thank you. Anybody else wanted to add anything? Okay.
What I would add to this is that before, as advertisers, our mix of media 1 year ago was 80% TV, newspapers, magazines, etc., and 20% digital and social network and social media. And today it is now like 60 digital, social media, and 40 in the rest. Bad news for TV, but that's life. It's happening.
Exactly. It's happening. It's unavoidable. Well, with that last idea, I believe I can only say what a vast amount of knowledge and information and experiences that you've shared with our audience and here in this panel. So I'm very grateful for all the information that you've shared this afternoon. So thank you. Thank you to all of you, my panelists. Thank you, Erika. Thank you, Carlos Mario. Thank you, Claudio. Thank you, Walter. And thank you also for being here with us. And of course, thank you to the Council of the Americas for allowing us to have this space and share your perspective.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gabriela.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.